What's up, good everybody? Rainbow Fur here back at you with another reaction video. Today we're watching the 10 fighting games with the worst metas. So we've had things like Leroy Smith from Tekken 6, for example, where when he came out, literally damn near everybody was playing Leroy Smith, especially at EVO. I think EVO was like 6 out of 8 were just all playing fucking Leroy. It was insane. But we're gonna see which ones are the worst metas. And of course, we start off with MK fucking 9. So let's see what they give us.
One, fight.
Welcome to Mojo Plays, and today we're taking a look at 10 fighting games that went through
Wow,
some
Watch
of the
Mojo, it's
worst
crazy.
metas ever. God forbid we diversify servers and avoid using quote-unquote unbeatable characters, am I right?
Oh, it's gonna be Virgil for this one, right?
Before we begin, we publish new videos all week long.
I know they
So
just
be
showed
sure to
Wesker,
subscribe to
but if they
Mojo Plays
do
and ring the bell
Marvel
to be
vs.
notified
Capcom,
about our
it's
latest
definitely going to
videos.
be fucking Virgil.
Mortal Kombat.
I will show no mercy. Round one.
No, Freddy?
Mortal Kombat the series has always
Yeah, it's
had a
Freddy.
history of cheap characters, but that was mostly with boss characters such as Shao Kahn and Noob Saibot. In an age where competition is more fierce than it ever has been, though, MK9 saw some of the worst of it in the franchise's post-Midway era. For the longest time, it was common to come across Cabal spamming Nomad Dash,
Oh, hell
Shiva's
no.
exploiting her broken stomp move, and every
Oh, I would be
Cyrex
heated.
main seemingly knowing how to execute a touch of death combo. Things got worse when Freddy.
Yeah, there was a lot of just hit streaks you couldn't even like get out of, or like the character didn't have the option to do it. I know if I remember correctly, there's one for Jax where he would just constantly like you can't do shit, and but like the moment you do something, your health bar is like damn near depleted. If I remember correctly, I think one of them was Jax when it comes to hit strings, but I could be wrong.
Kruger was added into the game and proved to be an exceptional zoner. Basically, there was just never a good reason
Oh,
to jump into
Zoner,
the online portion of
cool.
MK9. There just wasn't. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Oh,
Wesker. I'm bringing him in.
oh yeah.
Get ready to brawl.
The thing about MVC is that there are so
Wait,
many
what?
characters with unique movesets to choose from that you would expect players to
Hold
want
on,
to
nah.
experiment
No way he
with
says
different
Wesker, right?
teams. Alas, that was not the case with UMVC 3, nor its initial version, Fate of Two Worlds. Even today, you are bound to come across several players using the same characters, those being Virgil, Zero,
Yep.
Wesker, Magneto, Morrigan, Nova, Doctor Doom, Wolverine, or Rad Spencer. The reason for this is because each of these characters boasts excellent speed or zoning abilities. Sure, they are also just super fun to play in general, but when most tournaments are showing this same group over and over and over again, man, we'd have more fun watching two dudes fight each other with Big Zam in Gundam Battle Assault.
Okay, to be a little bit fair to Marvel, it's not as bad because even though like you do see all those characters, there's still kind of variations. Like one for example is Zero May Cry, so it's Zero, Dante, and Virgil. And Dante is like still like he's not top tier, but he's like really good. Like he could contend with those. So like there might be a mix of like high tier, mid tiers. But yeah, usually top tiers are being played. It's a little diverse, not by much, but to be fair, it does have like different characters that are shown. And actually win tournaments. Big ones too.
At least watching the Infinites can be interesting sometimes. Tekken 7.
Oh god. Oh, I forgot Akuma was also in fucking
Round one.
Tekken 7.
Fight.
One of the fucking worst things to do putting Akuma in that game. Not even just gameplay reasons, story reasons too. But that's a whole different story.
While great in several different ways, the online scene for Tekken 7 felt like it was rarely ever in an interesting spot. At launch, many folks were bullying others with Akuma's tactics, which broke just about all of the fundamentals of Tekken. However, the game found itself in a dire state throughout Season 3 when Leroy and Fakumram were added into the game. Leroy was trouncing
Oh yeah,
so many
Fakaram
players with his
was. I
parries
guess he was
that
really
it
good. I
nearly
don't
killed
know.
the game, especially
I didn't
after
really see
Evo
too much of
Japan
him.
2020 was nothing but Leroy matches. As for Fakumram, he was getting tweaked for months, literally months after launch, with one patch being solely dedicated just to him. Tekken 7 did get in a
What the
better state
fuck?
afterwards, but those of us who were playing at the time still go through those Vietnam flashbacks every now and again.
لكن سأقاتلك إذا اضطررت.
Shrek Super Slam. This may seem like a bizarre game to cover.
Really?
Trust us, it is.
Really?
But Shrek Super Slam does have a dedicated player base, as small as it may seem. Trust us, the meta here is just as awful as our other entries, though. See, Shrek Super Slam has a pretty meaty roster of 20 playable characters, and yet, only 4 or 5 of them are ever considered to be viable to compete with.
Wow, sounds
Those
like
being
Melee.
Fiona,
Smash Melee.
Robin Hood, Gingy, and Dronky. Red Riding Hood is also in that mix, but she's often
Who the
banned
fuck
from
is Dronky?
But all 5 of these
Unless you meant
characters
Donkey.
have consistently shown to be more versatile between their exceptional speed, their damage output, and their slam powers. You may see Luna or one of the A-tier characters every now and again, but for the most part, you're going to be seeing a lot of the 4 aforementioned fighters in the competitive scene, which can excite or bore you depending on what you're looking for and how much you love Shrek Super Slam. Persona 4 Arena and Persona 4 Arena Ultimax.
Is Elizabeth? No, I don't think Elizabeth was broken. I'm trying to think who was broken in this
Despite
game.
how it may appear, Persona 4 Arena is one of the easiest fighting games to jump into, no matter your skill level. Getting more people
By the way, just AKA, this is probably one of my favorite fighting games. Because I felt like I actually could do something, even though I'm like terrible. Like this game was one of those where I was just like, oh shit, I can actually like do a combo, like a little bit of something if I like press like a sequence of buttons that I just like randomly thought of pressing. Which for some people that's cool, some people that's not, yada yada. You have your own opinions. But I really love this game. We need a Persona 5 Arena. Can we get a Persona 5 Arena, please?
into the genre is great. However, this blessing is also P4A's curse, as some characters wound up becoming too easy to use, thus creating a really bad meta. Aegis was a strong fighter in both versions, same with Mitsuru.
Was
However,
Kanji a top
Yu was
tier?
frequently selected and often cited as the strongest
Okay.
character in the game, which quickly led to Arena becoming a spin-off specifically for Yu.
Kind of
So
crazy
like
that the
the rest of the cast
protagonist
didn't
is
even
the top
exist.
tier.
Injustice: Gods Among Us.
Oh my god, this fucking game. This game was on the same level as MK9, where it was just so much bullshit for no reason.
You're so clever.
NetherRealm Studios found themselves in hot water yet again after MK9, and it got to the point where Injustice Gods Among Us was given the nickname Injustice Zoners Among Us. Indeed,
Yeah.
this was a problem that should have been expected from the start, given that this is a superhero game.
Because here's the thing, and you literally just saw it for that second before I paused it. And I know like the people who are gonna watch this, probably mostly people who actually play fighting games, so you already know this. But for the people who don't, Injustice Gods Among Us probably had one of the most, if not the most, space that you can get between one character and another, right? So usually for fighting games, let's say it's like this, like let's say this is their full screen. This is Injustice. So if your character didn't have a couple zoning tools, your ass was going to have the worst day of your life. Especially, I remember there was somebody, there were literally matchups, no joke, that were like 9-1. For those who don't understand what that means, basically means out of 10 matches, you win 9 of them. And I think even there's a couple that was like 10-0. Obviously, people could make comebacks or understand the matchup, and then, you know, they could win. Not saying that's not the case. That's not the case. But on average, you win 9 of those 10 games. And if I remember correctly, it was Zod versus Lex.
On a scale of Well,
Oh man,
and it begins.
it's over. No.
NRS, please.
Because Lex was a big hitbox and he didn't really have anything to kind of go into besides like um a projectile absorption, and even then it's not like you could just absorb everything. Yeah, that shit was fucking terrible just to watch, let alone if I was playing.
starring characters that each had gadgets, guns, and the sort. That said, everybody was bound to have at least a couple of ranged attacks. Unfortunately, that is still no excuse for what transpired. Players found very little reason to actively engage in close combat when they could just spam projectiles until somebody got bored or timed out. The scene got even worse when Scorpion entered the fray with his teleporting ability as well as some moves that excel in zoning.
Flash was one of the
Since
coolest
then,
characters in that
NRS has
game
struggled
to
in
me.
mitigating players from exploiting zoning tactics across most of their games. Believe me, Injustice 2 was far more egregious. Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger.
I know nothing of this game. The only thing I know about this game that I could maybe I'm thinking of the wrong game. But someone who plays Blaze Blue told me, or Blaz Blue, whatever, told me that every character has like a mechanic. So like, you know, like maybe like a dragon install, or you know, you can only shoot this amount of bullets, so you have to reload like on some Happy Chaos shit. Apparently every single character has something like that, which is pretty cool. I really like that. I like characters that have
For the
like
most part,
modes.
Blaze Blue has been relatively okay at keeping the game balanced. You may hear folks complain about the Ruby Gord meta that played cross-tag battle, or whine about Kokonoe for the 100th time. However, Calamity Trigger was honestly the worst that things ever got with Blaze Blue. Back in the days when Calamity Trigger had a more lively online scene, you would often run into one of two characters, New 13 or Rachel. New 13 had an immensely strong keep-away game with a litany of ranged attacks, but was poor in close quarters. In other words, she was a glass cannon, though a glass cannon that was really tough to break than most. Rachel was deemed the most effective counterpick to deter new mains. Some were able to do fine with Jin, Tao, or Bang, but for the most part, New 13 and Rachel were stars of Calamity Trigger's online scene. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, New Age of Heroes.
Oh, yeah.
Normally, we try not to double up on games in one particular franchise for lists like this, but full admittance, MVC2, for as insanely fun as it is to play, is infected with a meta worse than UMVC3. For starters, almost every competitive player uses at least one of the four horsemen, those being Storm, Sentinel, Cable, and Magneto. As
Yeah,
for the
Cable
other
and
one or
Storm,
two
I
slots for their
remember.
team, it's almost
Just didn't
always
remember the other
Cyclops,
ones.
Doctor Doom, Strider, Iron Man, War Machine, Dhalsim, or Blackheart. Variety is pretty much dead in
Strider's one of the
MVC2's
coolest
competitive
characters
scene.
in
And while
general.
matches can still be fun to watch, the meta does lead to boredom much quicker than UMVC3. Super Smash
Damn.
Bros. Melee.
I already know
You
about this game.
You hear about how Melee
For some of you, this is volcanic take. For me, this is the cold take. Melee sucks, and it's pretty boring. The game's figured out. There's new players. Don't get me wrong. Like they're showing it right now for Zane. He used to be a new player. You know, he's top player and everything. But Melee players, you gotta let it go, bro. You have got to let it go. Your scene is lively and shit, but you gotta let it fucking go. Especially after 2020, ooh, like you already know. Anyway,
is supposedly this superior game compared to the rest of the franchise and how it plays so much better. More often than not, though, the folks repeating this sentiment are the same ones playing the same four characters every single match. How many tournaments
call
have
the
you
bitch
seen that
ass
are
out
just
too.
littered
Let's
with
go.
Jigglypuffs, Marths, Falcos, and Foxes? Yes, they have been proven to be the best fighters across decades of competitive Melee tournaments, and sometimes you'll see a few Peach mains, maybe some Sheiks, and few Captain Falcons, but even so, you eventually wish to see somebody shake things up.
Okay, there's another thing I do want to say that I just thought of. Melee players. This is the other thing about linear game go, right? Because these are the same motherfuckers who will go, "Oh, a new game came out," and like the devs will tell you, "Oh, it's just like Melee, just like Melee." So you're like excited. You're like, "Oh, it's just like Melee. Well, shit, I gotta try the game, whether you do content or not, right?" Y'all play the game, and then you're like, "Yeah, but this is not Smash Melee," and then you go back to Smash Melee, dude. Play other shit, please. Like support the games that are like Melee. You know, like, but then they flop, and then you're like, why did this game die? And it's just like, because you Smash Melee refugees decided to visit another game and try to get your visa and realize it was too much work, and then just came back to Melee. Fuck you.
Suddenly with a weird pick. Or maybe see an organization say, hey, you can only play low-tier characters only. It'd at least make things interesting for just a moment. And finally, Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
Oh.
Of every fighting game to ever exist, Dragon Ball
Oh,
Fighter
I remember
Z
some of the characters
may
for this
have
game.
the worst meta of meta history.
Bardark.
Ever since
Bardark.
launch, it just seemed
Bardock.
like Arc System Works could never get the balance just right, and the player base suffered greatly for it.
The other thing about their balance too, for some unknown fucking reason, I remember reading an article about this. They would say, "Oh, yeah, we're only gonna balance the game once a year. Once a year. So you mean to tell me?" Like, I think they kind of like said, "Okay, that's fucking stupid," and like, you know, they're more consistent in terms of patches. But before they were saying we're only going to patch the game once a year, it was so like glitches and like broken characters were just running rampant all the time and just did nothing about it. But this is also Arc System Works, and I don't maybe in their eyes maybe Dragon Ball wasn't as, I wouldn't say relevant, but wasn't as a high priority, like in terms of games between them and Guilty Gear, and I think they had another game at the time. Maybe DNF Duel. I know they did that, but I don't think it was around the same time. But they had that going for them, and it's like it's crazy because Dragon Ball Fighters was literally like one of the biggest fighting games at the time, and like just continue to have more and more because it's Dragon Ball. It's Dragon Ball. Of course, people are gonna buy it. It's fucking Dragon Ball. And then people will realize they have to pay $60 to block. So then, like, you still got the sales, and you even still got sales for DLC and had a good amount too. Why wouldn't you patch the game so that way, like, more DBZ characters could be viable? So then people could be like, oh, this character is actually good. I love this character. My favorite character. You know, let me hop on this game. Yeah, but what do I know? I'm not a game dev.
To its credit, every character is still pretty strong overall, but once you get into the nuances, that's when you see why only a few characters are frequently picked. Goku Black, Super Baby 2, SSGSS Vegeta, SSGSS Vegito, Labco Android 21, Nappa,
Oh,
Trunks,
God.
Super Saiyan Vegeta, and SSGSS Gogeta players were a dime a dozen to the point.
Hearing some of those names,
just got boring in a matter
it gives
of
me
minutes.
PTSD.
The game is fun to play. It just gets really old seeing the same few characters get picked over and over and over and over again. Tell us, which fighting game do you think has the most egregious meta?
Alright.
Did it
Pretty good video. I would have changed the order of the games for sure, but definitely a really good video. So shout out to Mojo Plays. With that said, thank y'all so much for watching. I'll catch y'all when I catch y'all.